Welcome to Leadership Matters, a podcast from the Bailey Group. I'm your host, Kaylee Thomsen, president of and partner at the Bailey Group, where we believe better leaders create healthier workplace environments, healthier humans, and a better world. On this show, we explore real stories, practical insights, and honest conversations to help you lead yourself and others better. Thanks for joining us. Let's dive in. Welcome to Leadership Matters. I'm your host, Kaylee Thomsen, and today I feel like I say this in every episode, but honestly, Peyton, I am like over the moon that you are joining us today.
You. Thanks. I appreciate you asking, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah,
Thanks,
this
Kaylee.
is going to be fun. I know we talked earlier about your, I think you have such a gift of communication. You feel very articulate, very charismatic, and very insightful. And the experience that you have, I just think is going to be such a gift to listeners today.
Thank you. Could you send a copy of the podcast to my teenage boys because they will laugh out loud at that? I appreciate that. That's very kind.
I think it'll come back around eventually. That's what I hear. Parenting is just...
It is a journey. It's a journey.
Well, for those that are not familiar with you, how do you introduce yourself?
What I'll tell somebody is I help entrepreneurs get what they want from their businesses. And I do that by working with their leadership teams to get them better at three things real quickly that we call vision, traction, and healthy. Vision is just getting a team 100% on the same page with who the company is and where it's going long term. Traction is instilling discipline and accountability top to bottom, side to side in the company so that everywhere you look, people are actually executing on that clear vision. And then healthy is making you a more cohesive, fun-loving, open and honest team willing to confront real issues head on. And most times people are building an entrepreneurial company. They're just so darn busy. They don't have time or energy or the ability to connect as a team. And so that's how I start talking about me and EOS to somebody that's never heard of me or EOS before.
That's really neat. And what meaningful work.
Yeah, it's that part surprised me just how emotionally rewarding the connections you have with people who work really hard, care about their employees and their customers, like with passion, don't ever feel like they've got enough time or energy left over for their faith or their family or their friends, and so getting into that mix and helping them install tools and disciplines that frees them up to live the life they thought they could live when they started the company is about the most rewarding thing I could think about doing for the rest of my life.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's fun.
So take us back. How did you first? Actually, before we go there, that was a very humbly confident response. For folks unfamiliar with Mike Paton, I should give the full name here. Visionary of one of the most visionary organizations and the creator of the term visionary, EOS Worldwide, taking over for Gino Wickman, the founder.
Right. That's right. Yeah, that was something we started talking about in 2013, I think, and actually happened in 2015. Super grateful for Gino's confidence in me, or poor judgment, which however the audience wants to interpret that. But what a great journey. What a great journey. Before that, the earning of the right to be the first person to succeed Gino in that role, and then 5 rewarding years running that company and growing our implementer community from like 60 EOS implementers to 300 people around the world that were really good at what they do and passionate about helping entrepreneurs.
Yeah. And the cascading impact of that growth.
In my personal vision, my own business's VTO, I wanted to be responsible for 4,000 of the 10,000 companies running on EOS by year-end 2020 through public speaking and talks and workshops and working with entrepreneurial leadership teams. And, when I became the visionary for EOS Worldwide, that was a bit of a surprise. So it really accelerated my ability to deepen the impact of the work I was doing.
Wow. What year did you set that goal for yourself?
That would have been November of 2007.
Wow.
My first VTO that I prepared in advance of and finalized at my boot camp training with Gino Wickman and his founding business partner, Don Tinney,
Yeah.
in Livonia, Michigan, a suburb of Detroit, in a ramshackle little office that Gino still calls a session room today.
So what was your initial reaction once you first read Traction and were exposed to the world of EOS?
Yeah, so this would have been the summer of 2007. I was running a $7 million market research firm, and I was struggling because I'd been hired the prior year to come take the organization to the next level. The person who hired me was the founding entrepreneur. We had developed a really good relationship, co-selling and co-delivering some products and services, or some services. I was running a sales and service training company as its leader of sales and marketing, and the company I came to join was a market research firm. And so we shared a couple deals or clients in common, and she propositioned me coming to work for the company, and I accepted, and very quickly realized I had made a terrible mistake. Our styles were different, our values were different, our approach to other people was completely different, and I hadn't properly analyzed that at all in making that decision, and yet, I worked my tail off for almost a year trying to figure out a way to get on the same page with her, and gradually migrate to a kind of leadership team and style that would work for me to help us both achieve what we thought was possible. And I just couldn't get there. And the good news is that about halfway through that year, a neighbor introduced me to the book Traction, which had just been published, and shared a couple of the tools he and his leadership team were using in their work with Gino Wickman in Detroit. And I just fell in love with it. I just thought, this is simple. It's accessible. There's no business acumen required here. It's just common sense, practical tools that make a difference for a team. And so I became intrigued enough to start a conversation with Gino and Don, and decided that was what I wanted to do. So the
Wow.
rest is history.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So before you have this conversation with Gino and Don, and you're in this really hard year of working your tail off and
Yeah.
trying to get yourself through, what did you learn about yourself in that season?
Well, I learned that I didn't want to be subjugating all of my other needs to a job. My 18-year-old son was born in January of 2006 when I was about 4 months in, and I didn't even feel like I could be present for that event, fully present for that event, given the chirping that I was hearing about things that needed to be done at work. And so that was the first thing of like, I'm a person who believes you hire smart, hardworking people, and you make sure they're equipped with the information and the tools they need to do great work for you, and you let them go, and you might have to nudge them back on the rails from time to time, but they don't need to be managed and controlled. They just need to be guided.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like that was happening with me or anybody else in that organization. I was really struggling with that because I don't know how to communicate with people that way. And so I think first of all, I learned that about myself, that I need to find um, something I'm good at and passionate about that allows me to build people up and enrich their lives, not the other way around.
Wow. And then EOS came into your life.
Yeah, and then I read this book and look at these tools, and I'm like, this is very similar to the way I've always wished I could pull it all together into a comprehensive system, but I wasn't smart enough or good enough to make that happen myself. But it really resonated with me. And the thing that really got me, Kaylee, is that, you've read a million business books, and most of the people watching this podcast have too. And every book you read can fix a dysfunctional company or leader. There are very few books I've read that make me go, this would make a really good company or a really good leader just a little bit better.
Wow.
And that's the way Traction felt to me, that even companies that were performing well and achieving what they set out to achieve would improve if they implemented the tools and techniques in Traction. And so that really piqued my curiosity and motivated me to learn more.
So great.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the book Good to Great specifically.
Yeah,
It's just such an encouraging way to look at it.
right.
And I know in our world, with executive coaching, we love working with really good, really committed, high achieving
Right.
professionals and just turning up the dial even more.
Right. And what the other thing, we bring Good Great into the mix. I could go for 2 hours on this subject, but the other thing about Good to Great that's really interesting is just how simple but difficult the techniques in Good to Great are. Like, preserve the core, stimulate progress. Well, gosh, leaders have a hard time with that, right? Like, oh, I'm the new leader of this organization. I've got to put my own stamp on things, and distinguishing between what's the core that needs to be preserved and what you can stimulate without screwing up everything is really hard. And, evidenced by the number of companies mentioned in Good to Great that no longer exist or that are much different than what Jim Collins was describing all those years ago.
So you've been in this world for 18 years now.
Yeah, almost exactly 18 years, about 18 years and 3 weeks. So,
How has this work changed you as a human?
it's made me more human.
Mm.
When I first started doing this, it was about getting the tools and the teaching of the tools right, and learning how to run a session, and rigor and discipline around repetition and all those things that crafts people really focus on. And the better I got at the day-to-day execution of EOS, the more I started to see the humans in the room with me. And I'm typically working with a leadership team of 5 to 8 people, and sometimes smaller, sometimes a little larger. And it was 3 years in before I started to really see and connect with the people, because I was teaching from my head and not my heart. And I think what I learned about myself is that when I'm really helping people, I'm coming from here, not here. And like all perfectionistic leaders, I get in my head a lot. And so EOS has really helped me start here and recognize when I'm spending too much time here.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
What is it about EOS that helps you get out of your head and more into your heart?
Well, there's a couple of things. It's not EOS per se. It's the EOS implementation process and the art of being a teacher, facilitator, and coach for leadership teams. And that what you start to see is you see patterns, right? And you see that humans are all essentially hardwired the same, with the same sets of flaws and weaknesses and neuroses, and so you realize that in many cases the crappy spreadsheet somebody just handed me isn't what's pissing me off. It's something in here, right? And so what you learn pretty quickly is if you spend all your time focused on the spreadsheet, you're not going to get to the real root cause of the issue. And the real root cause of the issue is probably inherent in the humans in the room, or the humans that aren't in the room that we're talking about. And let's figure out how to go there and work with that.
Yeah.
So,
It's so insightful, and it reminds me of the importance of really recognizing those root causes so that you can identify them, discuss them, and ultimately really solve what's
Yeah.
at the core.
yeah. You're using EOS terminology. So IDS stands for identify, discuss, and solve. And we call that the issue solving track. And funny but true story is Gino created this tool in a fit of rage because he had done his third or fourth session in a row where he had an otherwise really talented team of leaders that would try and tackle an issue, but he found that they were really good at discussing the issue and not so good at identifying what the real issue was. And then once it was clear, keeping the discussion short and focusing on making a decision and agreeing to take action that will make the issue go away forever. And so he built this issue solving track to help focus the conversation and break up the never-ending discussions and war stories and the talking around real issues.
Yes.
And so what happens when you're using this technique and implementing EOS is leaders gradually develop the courage to name the real issue right out of the gate rather than symptoms or code words for the real issue. An example of a code word for a real issue is internal communication. Like, that's a symptom, right? What's the real root cause? What are we really talking about here?
Yes.
You know, sales are off track is the symptom of some or multiple real root causes. So let's focus on the real root causes, and then let's influence those real root causes so we see progress in the symptom that we're tracking. And that's the fun part of this work, is that's such a simple concept, but simple and easy aren't the same thing at all.
Yes.
At all.
And there's so much power in the simplicity, I find, because it becomes so much more efficient. Like, you're not spending all that time unnecessarily spinning in conflict.
Yeah.
In unhealthy, unproductive conflict.
Well, the other thing that happens is EOS and that issue-solving track gives team members the permission to manage one another when the inefficiency happens in a meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, so now all of a sudden, instead of me saying to you, hey, you're sucking the air out of the room again, Kaylee, because you're just talking and talking and talking, and we're not getting to the root cause of the issue, that feels like a personal attack. But if I say to you, hey, Kaylee, I'm not clear on the real issue yet. You're talking a lot, but I haven't heard you state the real issue. Now, all of a sudden, I'm just helping you follow the process rather than attacking you as a fellow leader. And so little things like that just make a huge difference. It's so fun to watch the light bulb go on and see teams go, oh,
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
I can do that. And so now you're watching people whose confidence is building. And, you know, when they start, they're almost all sitting there thinking, this better be good because this place is... And, you know, I don't do any turnaround work. Good companies come to me and I help them become great leadership teams and help them create great companies. And so I'm not like digging anybody out of a ditch, but still they feel overwhelmed and they feel things are chaotic and everything's reactive. And man, just a little bit of progress towards a world where you're in control of your own destiny is just really fun to be a part of.
That is so good.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here smiling because I love how, because this work has made you more human, you've also seen how other humans expand their own capabilities. You talked about them growing in courage and confidence.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, and comfort in their own skin. And you know, have I worked with leaders who couldn't get out of their own way? For sure. I mean, this isn't for everybody. And you know, we all probably need a lot of help from a lot of people who are very good at helping folks, high achievers, you know, fast trackers, type A personalities. I mean, that's who I'm surrounded by all the time. It frankly makes me feel a little more normal than I deserve to feel. But you know, I mean, we all, and that's the human part of it. When I talk about that, what I realize is I genuinely love all of these people, even all of their flaws, all of their struggles, all of their inability to get out of their own way. I'm empathetic. I care about them personally. I mean, there have been people whose fate at a company was determined in a session, and I don't see them as a part of a leadership team after that. And man, when a couple of quarters later I get an email saying, "Hey, that was a tough day," and I haven't liked you for a while, but I ended up on my feet, and that actually turned out to be a really good thing that happened in my life. It's just so it makes me feel good because, man, life is too short to be stuck as part of a team you really don't fit into or belong at. So even the bad outcomes feel like good outcomes most of the time. That's pretty cool when you get to say that about your job.
Wow. There are so many threads I want to pull on. And where I want to go next is your first impression of Gino Wickman.
This guy is crazy. And I really hope you're seeing this, Gino, because, man, he is intense. He's direct. He is passionate. He has faith. Um, and he just, you know, he, I think Gino has a lot of superpowers. First of all, he's one of the world's great simplifiers,
Mm.
right? He is really good at taking what seem like complex, intractable issues and boiling them down to their bare essentials. I think that's what's really important for listeners and viewers to hear about EOS. It was built to be simple and accessible for everybody. Teams of folks working on the shop floor at manufacturing companies are running level 10 meetings and setting rocks and solving issues and keeping scorecard numbers on track. This wasn't built for, Ivy League graduates who are running big corporations. It was built for the folks who build and run and work in entrepreneurial companies. And so he's a great simplifier. But I think his real superpower is his ability to care enough about you and your company to tell you the truth. And man, does he do that. And sometimes it stings, but he's really good at delivering loving, constructive feedback. And, I'm more grateful to him for that than anything else.
What has been some, you and I have talked about this before, some powerful, direct, loving feedback that he's provided to you that's changed your trajectory?
Well, I'll tell you some funny stuff, and then I'll tell you probably the most impactful thing. Um, so, uh, um, I'm not very good at telling pre-written jokes. So, Gino would say to me sometimes, Peyton, when you say I'm about to tell you a funny story and it's not funny, that's just sad. So I learned to quit telling the pre-written jokes that are in some of the EOS content. When we're teaching, there's some funny stories in there, but apparently they're not very funny when I tell them. So that's that's pretty good. But the most impactful constructive feedback Gino gave me was when he was having an honest conversation with me about becoming the visionary for EOS worldwide. So this probably would have been 2013. He said, I'm talking to you. You're my top choice. I'm excited about this for all these reasons, but I've got one concern, and it could be a deal killer, and that's that we have a core value of humbly confident, and I think you're super confident. I'm not sure you're particularly humble. And the way you show up, and he was very specific, and he gave me 2 or 3 pieces of feedback, and he said, if this is going to work, you're going to have to do some real soul searching, and you're going to have to work on this. And at the time I was going through a very difficult divorce, and I wasn't feeling very good about myself, and that manifested itself as a brashness that was just really off-putting. And I couldn't end that conversation and not take a good hard look in the mirror and ask myself what was more important to me, my ability to make a big impact in the world, or showing up as a pompous ass when I wasn't feeling good about myself. And I reprogrammed myself most days. I still struggle with the humility for sure, but that made a big difference in my life, and I'll always be grateful for it.
Where do you struggle most with the humility?
Whenever I'm as a young man, I always needed to be the smartest guy in the room, right? Like I wanted to prove you wrong if I disagreed with you. And, now I know after all these years that People care about whether you're effective. Nobody gives a damn whether you're right or not. But man, I probably didn't learn that lesson until my mid-40s. And, that ruined a lot of friendships and short-circuited some career moves that would have made me a better leader and a better contributor. But that's kind of where that comes from. And usually the root cause is when I'm not feeling great about things myself, I'm taking it out on other people. And so I've done a lot of work, and I know how to recognize that feeling now and process it in a way that isn't external. And so I'm much better, but definitely not perfect.
Isn't it amazing how old habits die hard?
Yeah, I mean, we're all hardwired a way our creator intended, and we can either figure out how to harness and manage that to be effective or not. And I'm trying my best to harness it and be effective.
Yeah. Well, I would have never guessed that that was something that you've grappled with
Oh, thank
throughout
you.
life. And what a gift for Gino to see that in you and have the skill to be able to communicate it through love in terms of because you've grown so much from that one conversation.
Yeah, I have achieved more in this role after what I thought was a career-ending travesty, like this decision to leave a company I loved and come run this company here in the Twin Cities, and just 3 days in, be sitting there going, "Oh my God, I think I just made a terrible mistake." To go from that to discovering this thing I'm passionate about and feel uniquely suited and prepared to be good at. Like, that's what happened to me when I went to Detroit to visit Gino and Don, as I'm sitting there going, everything I've done in my life was preparing me for this moment, and I need to lean into this, and I need to be a good student, and I need to understand that Gino and Don have done all this work to help people like me make a big impact in the world. I'm going to try and do it the way they're teaching us to do it, and that is completely out of character for me. Like, I when I arrived in Detroit, I'm the kind of person who never met a system or a process or a tool he didn't think he could make better. And, hand to God or whatever you want to call it, that changed that day, and it changed my life for the better.
Wow. Well, you went somewhere where I was curious to go next. What, if any, parts of the EOS system have you struggled with the most?
Well, definitely process. And the reason I wrote the book Process with an exclamation point, which is an inside joke, I think it's funny. Gino probably doesn't.
Thinks it's sad.
But very few entrepreneurs on the planet have ever woken up one morning and said, "We're going to focus on process," and been excited about it. And so it's a topic that a lot of our leadership teams kind of resist. It's the last component in the EOS model that they want to work on. And what I discovered after 5 or 6 years of doing this work is that I wasn't passionate about it. So I wasn't passionate about teaching it, and I was allowing my clients' resistance to be the reason I wasn't doing it. And so I did a lot of self-introspection about that, and that motivated me to write the book really for visionaries, to help them understand that strengthening your process component is the key to you and your leadership team being able to spend your time being innovative, creative, thinking about the future, focusing on building initiatives rather than fixing initiatives. And so, the tagline of the book is really, process doesn't destroy freedom, process creates freedom. And if you don't have consistently executable processes at a high level that everybody in your company knows how to follow, you're not going to build a growing and scaling business and be freed up to be the leader you want to be. So that was easily the biggest obstacle to my effectiveness as an EOS implementer, and to the effectiveness of a lot of the companies I was working with.
Wow. And it's fascinating knowing how much you grappled with that, how you've kind of come full circle to really evangelize the importance of and the power of that in a really a way that resonates with visionaries who tend to be more valued around freedom and
That's right.
autonomy.
That's right. And the energy around it comes from watching the same issues get put up on the whiteboard every quarter with long running clients, and sitting there looking at their issues list and saying the root cause of all of these is weakness in the process component. And so, I'm a data driven guy. I'm a high fact finder. I like to do research. I once I've done the research and I'm clear on what the right answer is, then I want to take action. So that's what happened with the book process. It just became so impossible for me to ignore that I had to do something about it. And so that was a fun little journey. And my co-author, Lisa Gonzalez, came from a completely different place, but is also very process oriented, very passionate about helping. And so we had a blast writing the book together, and learning to teach people who aren't of the mind that they're process oriented, that they can be, and it doesn't need to be a 700-page SOP manual that creates bureaucracy and rigidity and all of that stuff. So that's really fun.
That's amazing. What a gift to reframe process. It is the superpower that it can be
Yeah,
in
yeah.
organization.
Well, I take great pride in every person who it's had a positive impact on, because I think it makes a huge difference as you're trying to grow a business without overwhelming yourself or your team. So
So you talked about process being kind of at the root cause of a lot of the issues that you
Yeah.
see thrown up on the board
Yeah.
again and again. Where else do you see companies really struggle? I mean, you have visibility into rooms and conversations that very
Yeah.
few people are present in or privy to.
Yeah, so the 6 key components of the EOS model are vision, people, data, issues, process, and traction. And the people component is probably the component we spend the most time on, because, that Gino's pre-written joke, if you don't find this funny, it's my fault, not Gino's fault, is um, thank God for people, because when robots are working at every entrepreneurial company in the world, EOS implementers are going to be out of work. It's the humans that create most of the issues. And so you know, there's a couple of things at play. First of all, we're all flawed, right? Ego is a big thing. Like, I'm not one of those people who thinks ego is a bad thing. I think there are a lot of positive things that can come from ego, but unchecked ego and ego at the expense of team and organizational health is dangerous, right? So that's a common thread. And then another common thread is just as a company grows and scales, the complexity grows, the need for different skills and experiences grows. And so there's a negative aspect to loyalty that happens with people, where somebody who was really good at his or her important job in the first 5 years is now way out over their skis, and what the company needs from the person in that role is completely different than the things that this person is passionate about or good at. But because we've been working together for so long and I'm so grateful for your contributions, I'm not willing to have that conversation with you. And man, I see that hurt both parties and the company a lot. And I'm sure you see that. You see that too. Well, but he or she has been around since we opened the doors. What am I supposed to go have a tough conversation with that person? And what I learned about 3 or 4 years into this mix is most of us are thinking that the avoidance of the tough conversation is somehow helping this person. And really what you're doing to hurt them most is not having the tough conversation, because there is a chance early on that they can grow at the pace they need to grow at to keep meeting the needs of your changing organization. But if they don't know there's a gap developing until it's too late, if you wait to have that tough conversation until everybody in the company can tell Bill's got to go, there's no hope. And so I learned to teach the value of the tough conversation early is increasing the chances that your people are going to grow with you, rather than increasing the chances you're going to have to fire somebody.
Yeah. How do you partner with leaders and organizations to help them move from where they're at to where they want to go or where they want to be?
Yeah, the system gives them the tools and the framework, and I will spend time one-on-one with individual leaders, IDSing issues with them to help them discover the right answers. I don't do individual leadership development work, and so my answer is I send them to you and Lee or other people in your industry because, there are some people who aren't particularly courageous or confident communicators, and they need development there, or they, need 360-degree feedback as leaders, and I don't do that work.
Yeah.
And, I do promote the open and honest feedback happening in the session room. I think that's the best way to receive 360 feedback is when you're having an open and honest conversation with your peers. But there's all kinds of stuff that executive coaching and leadership development can help when somebody is in a role where they need to constantly be developing themselves.
Yeah.
And the good news is I'm surrounded by people. I mean, one of our core values is grow or die. And the nature of that core value is if you're searching for consistency and you don't like things changing and you're looking for comfort, being an EOS implementer and being in the room with an entrepreneurial leadership team is not the place for you. Man, I can't remember running a session out of almost 2,000 that I didn't walk away going, "Well, I learned something today." Like and many of them I'm pushed way outside my comfort zone, and I don't really have any idea how a situation is going to play out, and I'm just kind of facilitating with every ounce of energy I can muster and hoping that we reach a good outcome. And man, I'd love that. That is so cool to be able to do stuff like that every day.
What do you love about that?
Well,
Why does it personally?
when I was a competitive public speaker as a young person, somebody once said to me, "Well, if you're not nervous, it doesn't count." I like that, uncertainty. I like the risk taking. I like not being clear on how something's gonna come out. It's like reading a good book. I like a page turner,
So adrenaline there.
Like if I'm going to work every day and I'm taking stuff out of this pile and putting it in that pile and somebody's taking it off and that's my job every day, I would last about 8 minutes in that job. And I'd want to get up and walk around and talk to people and find a problem I could help solve. So yeah, I don't know how people do that kind of work.
How do you satisfy that desire for excitement or adrenaline outside of your world as an implementer?
Well, uh, I played a lot of adult soccer as a young man, and my boys are very competitive soccer players. So I love being pitch side watching my boys play.
Mm.
Um, I do a lot of reading, business reading and non business reading, and I love films and I love storytelling um and I like cooking. I like trying new things that I haven't learned how to do before. And my wife and I cooked dinner together last night. And that's always fun for me. So I just, I live a very interesting, bold life. I like to travel to places I've never been before. I just want to mix it up.
Yeah. I hear that throughout. And even your life pre-EOS, there's this kind of thread of entrepreneurial mindset that really runs through you.
Yeah, I mean, I was selling candy out of my locker in middle school. I mean, it's all the cliches I can give you, paper route. I was a seaweed harvester. I mean, you name it, I've done it. And, I've never really had a job that I hated. I've had jobs that were hard that I knew I didn't want to do for very long. But man, I like achieving objectives. I like having something I'm trying to accomplish and working my butt off to make that happen. Super competitive and take a lot of satisfaction from working hard and getting results.
Where does that come from?
Probably neuroses, I would say. Yeah, I mean, I, grew up in a family with divorced parents, and a lot of moves. I never really felt at home in any one place. Luckily, I had a grandparents, a high school math teacher, and a sixth grade teacher that provided a bit of a constancy to me. My mom was always present and a wonderful woman, and on the off chance she's got the patience to listen to me yammer on for 60 minutes, I'll say that out loud. Uh, but it's just a lot of maybe discomfort growing up. That's what feels like home to me, is experiencing new things.
Yeah, fascinating. So, and earlier it sounds like I gave you a softball to like set up the Bailey group. That was not my
No, no,
intention at
no.
all.
But it's true. It's true.
And I see so much parallels in our work. I mean, you
Yeah,
create the conditions for people to try new things
that's right.
and grow in different ways and get the stuff out on the table, which, once your body starts living through some of those experiences, half the time I find in my work with clients, the difficult conversation, the hardest part of it is the anticipation leading up to the difficult conversation.
Yep, that's true. Yeah, the pain of having the conversation always feels more than it is going to be. And the pain you're in that the conversation is supposed to influence always feels less than it's supposed to be, which is why people avoid solving the issue. Well, I'm not in that much pain right now. It's only taken me 10 minutes a week. Well, I've learned that 10 minutes a week means maybe 10 minutes a week of dealing with the specific thing that's driving you crazy, but 22 hours a day of having that bouncing around in your head driving you crazy. And, I've been there. I've woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning wondering what the heck I'm going to do with my top performing salesperson who's driving everybody in the organization crazy. And I keep telling them to lay off and gosh, look at this stuff because I don't want to solve that problem. Like I know what that feels like. And I know there are a million good reasons not to deal with the real issue, but you gotta deal with the real issue,
Yeah.
right? That's the thing you discover when you watch hundreds of teams and hundreds of leaders struggle with the same thing. You're like, well, the answer is so damn clear to me. Why isn't it clear to you? It's a half the time my energy in a session room is resisting the temptation to yell at people on it. You're gonna get a lot of emails from people saying, "Oh, he doesn't resist the temptation very often." So,
Well, and that I do think there's so much power and almost magic. I know you and I have talked about the
yeah,
magic
yeah.
component before of having an objective third party who's not in it.
Yeah, so I think one of the reasons the people who work with you get value from EOS and vice versa is when I'm working with the entire leadership team, we do quite a bit of team health work. And it's not sitting around a campfire holding hands and singing kumbaya kind of stuff. We're not using ropes courses or trust falls or any of that stuff. But we're just getting really good at naming the real issue and working through conflict together. We teach from Patrick Lencioni's work liberally and with permission. And Gino and Mr. Lencioni have a fabulous relationship. I've been fortunate to meet him. He's a wonderful guy, as genuine in everything he says, the content he's created interpersonally as he is on paper or via podcast. So I got a little bit of a man crush on Patrick Lencioni. But one of the things we teach, and I'm right in the middle of annual season right now, so I'm teaching this with every team I'm working with, is that great leaders ask for help. Great leaders ask for help. When you've got a leadership team and they're all siloed and they're struggling, but they see that their teammates are all working really hard and have their own problems, they're conditioned not to ask their teammates for help or to offer help because a lot of prideful leaders, when somebody offers help, that's like an insult or a criticism. Hey, you look like you're struggling there. A lot of people hear that as, man, you're not very good at your job, right? And so part of what we're doing in the team environment is to say, hey, great leaders ask for help from one another. They offer help to one another. And so that creates a condition in which if somebody realizes they've got a blind spot they can't fix themselves, they've got to go find somebody who is an expert helping leaders overcome their weaknesses and challenges and lean into their strengths. And so that's, I think, why this happens so seamlessly with you and other great people that I get the chance to work with.
What are some, I heard this concept of don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to offer help. How do we create more opportunity for that? What are some of the other characteristics that set, some of the most impactful teams that you've seen apart from the rest?
Yeah, this actually happened in the session I had yesterday and the day before, 2-day annual with a longtime client who's just killing it right now. And we've had lots of ups and downs, but their team health is really high, and honestly really high. Sometimes a team rates itself very high in team health, and I'm like, I'm not sure. Be a little optimistic there, but these guys are really good. And what occurred to me in the session, and we talked a lot about this, is how important it is to not even have one person on your leadership team who isn't interested in finding alignment with the rest of the team. Okay? And I've come to believe that people are naturally oriented towards finding alignment or searching for places we don't agree. Like you're either looking for conflict or you're looking for alignment.
Fascinating.
And great leadership teams are fanatical about alignment and resolution. They're not fanatical about conflict for conflict's sake. And so this particular team has had to overcome a couple of instances of that being a problem. And man, the sessions go faster, the frequency with which they'll disagree and commit. 2 people think we should do this, 3 people think we should do that. Why don't we give this a try? Because you're accountable for this thing. If you think we should do that, I can disagree and commit. Worst case scenario, 3 months or 6 months from now, we can try the things the 3 of us wanted to try, but let's go. And, that's been a real aha for me, this importance of the search for alignment and the intentional focus on alignment versus misalignment is huge.
That is so powerful. I love how you said fanatical about getting to alignment.
Yeah. Yeah. You if you want to, and this is again part of the personal lessons I've learned, if you're coming to every meeting trying to demonstrate your ability to find the right answer is superior to the abilities of everybody else on the team, you are one of those people looking for misalignment. And you may not recognize it as that, but man, a team that moves forward with the wrong approach today will know that 90 days from now. A team that can't quit arguing, and so they table the issue until we all agree, is stuck. They're stuck. And it drives me crazy. Just take a shot. Just take a shot. So, and then the other thing that springs off of that is I've always been fascinated by the frequency with which companies and leaders want to decouple authority and accountability. I want to tell you what goals to achieve and then have you be accountable for achieving goals I think are attainable and realistic, but you clearly don't. That's what I mean by the decoupling of accountability or authority. Another example of that is we're IDSing an issue that is in somebody else's area, and I want the person who's accountable for getting results in that area to do it my way, not their way. And they might go do it my way, but then what happens is we don't get the results we want, and they come back and they say, well, I did it your way.
Right.
So now they've decoupled accountability and authority, and everything breaks down when you do that. So that's the second cool aha that I've had recently about how important making sure the person who's accountable for something feels as though he or she has the authority to determine what we can accomplish and how best to go do that. And worst case, they fail, but then they own it.
Exactly.
And they own it.
Yeah.
So
That was a huge learning for me when I moved into leading others, is that importance of, because if they don't have the authority to bring about the success, ultimately you're just trying to do your job through them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you're still owning it, where
Yeah.
you can truly delegate the ownership of it only once they've got what they need in order to bring that about that.
Yeah, and I'm okay with a negotiation there. Hey, I think we can achieve this.
Right.
You think we can achieve this. Let's talk through that.
Yes.
Let's help me understand why you feel we're so constrained and blah, blah, blah. And, good leaders can compromise from time to time. Now, I don't know how a young leader would learn that from watching what's going on in the world today, because the art of compromise seems to be completely gone right now. But you know, getting people to achieve more than they think is possible is actually quite easy if you allow them to own it. I think we can get here. Here's why. I'm okay setting the goal here as long as you promise you're not going to take your foot off the gas pedal when we get there in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
And you said it was going to take a month.
Yeah.
Right? And I've never worked with a leadership team member who was gonna sandbag Q4 because they're blowing it away in Q3. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I work with achievers.
Right.
The entrepreneurial leadership teams are full of achievers. If they're making hay while the sun shines. So let them be a little more conservative than you think is prudent, and then challenge them to overperform is a much better technique than demanding they set your goal rather than their own.
Mm-hmm. And there's real empowerment in that too.
Yeah, there's ownership. I mean, it's just ownership.
Yeah.
Okay, I think this is possible. We're going to debate the ranges. We're going to reach agreement on something, but then you're going to walk out of here owning it.
Yeah.
Right? That style tends to work best.
And it goes back to your point about alignment. I have found it's really hard to get truly aligned if there isn't the curiosity to better understand one another's perspective, to try to create the most robust, thoughtful approach forward.
That's right. And um, fake agreement happens a lot in organizations with a strong voice. Right? So I see people agreeing to agree rather than agreeing from a position of ownership a lot. And so I work really hard with a team to make sure everybody gets a chance to say, I am 100% on board. We're going to go crush it. This is my goal, not somebody else's goal. And I think if you just accentuate the need for that real alignment and you eviscerate fake alignment from your organization, you're gonna find a new gear.
I'm so glad you talked about real alignment versus fake alignment.
Yeah. Oh God. I've seen it a million times. The visionary says, where do we want to be in 3 years? Well, $2 billion and operating on 5 continents. And the rest of the leadership team's like, okay. Yep, that sounds good. And it's one of the reasons we teach traction first and vision second in an EOS implementation, because the traction teaching establishes clear accountability for the goals we're setting. And so when you've established clear accountability for a goal like that, and somebody's setting a shoot for the stars and we'll celebrate when we hit the mountaintops kind of goal, the team that's accountable for executing on that goal is going to speak up. Oh, wait a minute. I can get you to $1 billion in 2 continents, but I don't think we can get to 2 billion and 5 continents. And then now we're negotiating, and now we're having a conversation, and this is healthy, productive conflict that leads to resolution. But if you want to win that argument every time and you're the stretch goal person, you are going to drive away your most accountable people, because accountable people like to celebrate real success. And they get upset when we set a goal for 2 billion and we're having a party because we hit 1.5 billion. The people in the room are going, 75%, that's a C. What are we drinking wine and wearing party hats for? So that's the connection between accountability, authority, traction. A lot of people kind of naturally mess this up.
I'm glad you touched on accountability. I feel like in some circles, it's sort of gotten a bad rap, or it's become almost like a dirty word. I'd be curious your take on that, Peyton.
Yeah, so this is EOS teaching, so it's Gino's take on this, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. What we teach is a technique called LMA, leadership management and accountability. The reason accountability has a bad rap is there's a perception that you need to hold everybody accountable. That if you're a boss, your job is holding everybody accountable or making people accountable. We believe that people are either naturally accountable, they like to celebrate success and suffer failure acutely. When something doesn't work out, they own it and figure it out and get better next time versus pointing fingers or assigning blame or making excuses and playing the victim card. So you're either hardwired one way or the other way. And when we teach our leaders and managers how to lead and manage, we just say, you're not going to convert a non-accountable person into an accountable person. It's not your job. Your job is to lead and manage in a way that accountable people want to work for you, and people who aren't accountable don't. Because those are the people that are going to opt out themselves or that are going to struggle consistently until they're coached up or coached out. And that, I think, takes a lot of the stigma away from accountability. It's not your job as a leader or manager to make someone accountable. It's just lead and manage a way where the champions want to play for your team and the non-champions want to play for the Cleveland Browns. And I'm allowed to say that because I'm a lifetime Cleveland Browns fan. And yes, your audience can feel sorry for me all they like. So
So I'm listening and I'm thinking, I'm a people leader. How do I lead and manage in such a way that does exactly what you're talking about?
yeah, so the EOS book that describes this in detail is How to Be a Great Boss, which is written by Gino and my dear friend Renee Bohr, who was in that boot camp class with me in November of 2007 and now lives in Victoria, Minnesota, even though he was from Chicago at the time.
Wow.
He grew up here and he has family here. And so hearty thanks to Gino and Renee for this book. But this has always been a part of EOS. They just wrote about it in the book. And so there are 5 leadership disciplines and 5 management disciplines that we teach. And I'm not going to go into all of them, but basically it's, first of all, understanding that leading and managing are 2 different things. And then secondly, it's working really hard to be good at all 5 of those leadership disciplines and all 5 of those management disciplines. And every time I'm teaching LMA to a leadership team or a group of mid managers, which I do from time to time, most people are naturally good at a handful of those 10 things and have some blind spots or challenges in another handful of those 10 things. And this teaching gives people a roadmap how to get better. If I had to summarize it, I'd say make sure the people who set and complete goals, rocks, and to-dos, and take personal accountability for hitting their numbers and bringing and solving issues and helping their teammates solve their own issues and get better, lead in a way that those people love working for you. And the people who are constantly playing the victim card and underperforming and blaming it on someone else or causing problems or trying to get you to focus your time and attention on other people in the organization who aren't doing their job rather than owning their stuff don't like working for you. That's the way I'd teach it, and that's the way I do teach it. When there's a leader of HR, people and culture in the room, when I'm teaching this stuff, I say, I'm hoping that leading and managing this way creates a stream of non-accountable people beating a path to your door, complaining about the leaders and managers who actually expect them to be accountable for being good at their job and fitting the culture of their organization. And that's what we're trying to do.
I think we've got time for one more question here.
Awesome.
Top of mind for me, looking ahead, again, you've got such rich history with leaders, all different levels, all different organizations, all different industries. As you look ahead to the next 5 to 10 years, What do you believe are going to be the most important characteristics of the leaders who will really thrive versus the ones who will fade out?
I think the ability to focus is getting more and more important as the world throws more and more at us at an increasing rate of speed. And, AI is on the tip of everybody's tongue right now, but that's just the latest in a series of cataclysmic changes business leaders have had to deal with for many, many years. And so, the ability to say no to the right things so you have time and energy to pursue the handful of things you say yes to, and you're not distracted by all the shiny stuff out in the world. I think the more shiny stuff there is, the harder that's going to get. It just feels like there are so many potential distractions. We're all carrying supercomputers around in our pockets, and it is very difficult to get in a room and focus on what your team and your business really needs to go from where you are today to where you want to be a quarter or a year or 3 years from now. And most of the skill at that isn't in saying yes, it's in saying no. A new company, somebody who starts a solo venture, that succeeds because you're saying yes to lots of stuff and then you're figuring out how to go deliver on it. You get to 10 or 50 or 100 people, you got to get really good at saying no.
How do you feel about your skill at saying no?
I'm terrible at it. Terrible. I've never met an opportunity that didn't seem like a good idea to me. And for the record, if you want to motivate me, just tell me something is impossible. And I will want to prove you wrong. And again, this is another gift I got from Gino Wickman is he's the best no-sayer on the planet.
Really?
With Gino, it's always no and, right? No and. If you ask Gino to do something that he's decided he's not going to do, he will say no.
Yeah.
Like that. Like one of the things he taught me was a fast no is way better than a long no or a fast yes that you don't really mean, right? So he'll say no. Now, here's how I think you might be able to get that need met by somebody who isn't Gino, right? That technique has really helped me. So I work really hard. I do 5 to 10 talks and workshops a year. I can't do them all. I have 10 other great implementers who are really good at doing EOS talks and workshops that when I get a request that I can't meet, it's a no and.
Yeah.
And so, leaders have to develop the ability to say no. And no and is a much better answer than no or yes, but I don't really mean it. And you're going to notice in the lackluster way I deliver on my yes.
Yeah.
So,
That's amazing.
yeah.
Very helpful.
Yeah. Good.
No and. That's something I
Yeah.
will be taking with
Yeah.
me.
Good for you.
And I can see how it serves you in parenting as well.
Well, let's not use my experience as parenting
Me
as don't. If your kids ever meet my kids, they'll be laughing about that for years. Jesus.
Thank you so much for
My
sitting
pleasure.
down with me today.
My pleasure.
And we've got something exciting for the listeners.
Yeah.
Process. This superpower for organizations. We will email us at leadershipmatters@thebaileygroup.com with the subject line Paton's process with an exclamation point. If you forget the exclamation point, you won't qualify. And we're going to choose 5 people at random.
That seems punitive, I'll just say.
It's a marketing tactic, right? If you just search process,
there
it's
you go.
much harder to find, but
it is.
process exclamation point. We're gonna mail you a copy of this incredible book that will help organizations really thrive. Because I will tell you, we implemented Traction or EOS. We call it Traction.
Lots of people do.
EOS. We got tremendous traction through implementing EOS in 2016, and that documenting your core processes was always the most challenging component of that entire process.
Yeah, and that's the reason we wrote the book is there are a lot of people who believe the term entrepreneur and the term process are mutually exclusive subsets. and they don't need to be and shouldn't be. You cannot grow and scale a highly successful entrepreneurial company without documenting and simplifying a handful of core processes, without creating a 750-page SOP manual and a bunch of rigid bureaucratic principles. And that's what the book is all about. It's process for entrepreneurs.
So good.
Yeah. Excited about that. Thank you. That's very kind of you.
Yeah, I'm excited about it too. And it's Process ! Written by Mike Paton and Lisa Gonzalez.
Correct. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yep.
You can buy it on Amazon. I did see that.
Yeah. You can buy it just about anywhere you'd buy books.
Yeah.
So.
And you can also email us and potentially get a free copy yourself from the Bailey Group.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it, Kaylee.
It's fun. All right. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Leadership Matters. Thanks for joining us for today's episode of Leadership Matters. If today's episode resonated with you, would you do me a favor and share it with someone you care about? To learn more about the work the Bailey Group is doing in the world, check us out at thebaileygroup.com or follow us over on LinkedIn. We love sharing useful articles, helpful resources, and valuable tools to help you expand your leadership capacity. Like and subscribe, and join us next time for more honest conversations.